Welcome to this Monday morning edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. As has been advertised for many days, there are a lot of severe weather areas over the next couple of days, pretty much filling out the rest of the week. Significant changes in today's forecast for tornado potential in parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota, and additional forecasts for later in the week. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Let's take a closer look. The severe weather threats across the United States are divided into two regions, one much more significant than the other. I'm sure you can see that up here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, we have a really high risk for severe thunderstorms. That's a level 3 out of 5 upgraded today. And we also have a level 1 out of 5 down here in the central part of Oklahoma, stretching down into Texas. I also wanted to show you a broad brush view of the tornado risk associated with both of those areas. It's only a 2% chance in the southern region. Meanwhile, this has been upgraded this morning with the morning update that occurs at about 8 o'clock Central. And that was upgraded to a 10% risk there in that corridor from Minnesota over into Wisconsin. So that bears a little bit of a zoom in. And so let's take a look at the severe thunderstorm risk again for these areas. Here's Minneapolis. Here is Madison, Wisconsin. La Crosse is right in here. Rochester is right here. So they're all on a level 3 out of 5 chance for severe thunderstorms. Remember, that includes large hail, damaging winds, or tornadoes, any of the above. But they do break this down by risk. So let's take a look at the tornado risk. Again, as of the morning update, this was increased to 10%. Extreme southern Minnesota, south central Minnesota, over into southeastern Minnesota, and continuing on across the Mississippi into Wisconsin. That's a 10% risk of a tornado within a 25-mile radius. And that brown is 5 and the green is 2%. I did want to zoom in on this. The Storm Prediction Center has come up with a new significance factor, and I can't get it to plot GIS, so I can, but it's not easy to read. So I just worked on this morning because I wanted to show you. So this is what I already showed you, the percentages within 25 miles. But this black line right here is the SPC's attempt now to classify how intense these tornadoes might be within this area. So this is a SIG 1 level, and how that breaks down just by looking at what's happened over the years is you have a significant leaning toward EF zeros and EF 1s. So if you have 42%, 37%, that's almost 80%. Significance, if a tornado occurs, 80% chance it's going to be on the weaker side, EF 0 or 1. But there is a 14% chance of an EF 2, and then it drops off significantly for EF 3s or EF 4s and above. That's the black line there. There is a second level of intensity, that's and actually a third too, that is not valid today, but if this comes up in the future, these would be probably just inside each other, concentric areas. So I would just kind of show that if that becomes applicable in the future. I did want to break down that this is also a pretty big hail risk, 30% chance of severe hail. Remember that severe hail is 1 inch or greater in diameter. There is a category that goes with this too. I haven't had time to build it out yet, but know that this area has a pretty good chance of getting 2-inch or larger hail. And the wind threat, not as significant, 15% chance. It depends on how this turns into a Boeing line segment, I think, and how impact that might have on that area later on tonight. Now, looking back to the tornadoes, I want to look at Nadocast. It does put a 5% risk, basically from Rochester due east, almost Lake Michigan, cutting right across the central part of Wisconsin for later on today. And Colorado State University has the tornado risk maximized right around La Crosse, the Cooley region. And that's a 10% chance there. Pretty significant. And hail risk, again, the corresponding hail risk pretty high. Southern Minnesota, central Wisconsin, with a wind risk that kind of matches what the SPC had out. I want to take a look at some model data real quick here. Now, we got a lot of unstable air. Anything in the brighter orange, yellow color is good enough for severe weather. We have 2 definite boundaries, one here, one here. And this is going to be the boundary of interest right here. So everything that forms north of this boundary, supercell-wise, is going to be a big hail producer. And then if something can form south or along the boundary, that would up the tornado chance quite a bit. One thing that's inhibiting some of this convection, especially down here, is we have SIN, which is convective inhibition. It just means that in these areas where the color starts showing up, the atmosphere has to work hard to overcome a warm cap in the atmosphere. Now, normally these values would not be considered extreme, except that the overall dynamic support to get thunderstorms lifted above that layer is not great. You would have to rely on local hotspots of surface heating or boundaries of some kind. And those are kind of lacking, which is why this Storm Prediction Center hasn't really emphasized these areas down here too much, even though on paper otherwise they look pretty good. And the bulk shear, that's another thing. It's in this area right along the front and just south of it. If you get into these, actually that black line right there kind of marks where the SPC thinks it's good enough. They use it in their decision-making process, so that's why it's on the map. But bulk shear in northern Iowa and southern Minnesota, it looks pretty good at 6 p.m. And if we look at the HRR here, radar, it does show supercells at 6 o'clock at or north of the boundary. Again, if that is north of the boundary, it's a hail producer for sure. If it's on the boundary, it could be a tornado producer. So that's why Minneapolis and areas just south of it, let's say between Minneapolis and Rochester and southern Minnesota in general, need to watch these initial storms, and maybe one, maybe two could find a path to stay on the boundary, which would enhance the low-level rotation as well. So it's a situation that bears watching. So let's turn the page to tomorrow, Tuesday. Just a little bit more to the south and east is the level 3 risk for tomorrow as compared to today. So southern Wisconsin now, northern Illinois, and much of eastern and central Iowa is under that level 3. Level 2 surrounds it from Detroit all the way down to Mexico, and even a slight risk of some severe storms. Actually, it's the actual yellow color is the name slight risk, and this 1 is marginal, basically, and you can see the scale goes up to 5. So this is a pretty good chance of severe weather in any mode. The tornado risk up there is 5% as of now, and there's also now a new 5% risk down there just to the west of Oklahoma City, but covering the length of Oklahoma from that point. So that's interesting that is getting a little bit better. The upper level winds are just increasing out here and becoming more favorable for tornado development, and then this is just a continuation of the same idea out here that we had yesterday, just today, just sinking a little more south. The tornado risk is set at 10% in northern Illinois, parts of Iowa and Wisconsin for tomorrow, Tuesday. Hail risk is even higher now. It's up around 45%, right around Dubuque and Cedar Rapids, Iowa, maybe parts of Illinois. Otherwise, a 30% chance from southern Iowa all the way over into Michigan. And the wind threat's a little more significant, too, as a squall line develops tomorrow. If we look at the NAMS bulk shear, this is just what holds supercells together. You can see it's starting to improve here in Oklahoma, and over in Illinois, it's starting to look pretty good as well. And that's valid. I believe I grabbed the 21Z, so it'd be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And Cape is equally a little more robust and just overall higher values for Tuesday, including along the dry line here. Again, in northern parts of Missouri, southern Iowa, we need some triggering mechanisms to get that going for sure. But it is right on the edge of where those enhanced risk area is. That level 3 was over here. Now we'll jump ahead to Wednesday. This is a little bit more broad brush. So from southern Wisconsin down to northern Texas, a level 2. Always room as we get closer to these events for enhanced pockets, level 3s to be an issue. We just have to have confidence in model data to be able to do that. So just be advised the same corridor again is under the gun. And this is, these risk areas have been advertised now since late last week. So I'm hoping everybody is aware of what the possibilities are. Now, as far as CSU's data is concerned, tornado risk, this includes southwest Missouri, where I broadcast from, northwest Arkansas through much of Oklahoma. The centroid's right around Wichita Falls. And then there's a hail risk connected with these storms here as well. Not much of a wind risk with that. This wave, the little short wave, is starting to lift out a little bit. So There's a maximum, just as winds, this is the EPS now, the mean value of the ensembles. And so the upper level wind support, the shear that would be needed for supercells is definitely there. This is a stronger system on Wednesday. So I think there's probably going to be room for something that goes above slight, which is the yellow I showed you in this area. We just need one more day to pass, a little more confidence. Now, on Thursday, things kind of take a break. If you look at CSU, where it plots it, it kind of stretches it, elongated from Texas to the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley. And then we pick things up again on Friday with Iowa, much of Missouri, and Kansas and Oklahoma, with a 15% chance of severe weather within 25 miles. Once it gets to day 4 or beyond, this is the way the SPC does it. They don't break it down by those 5 levels anymore. They just give you 15 or 30% confidence levels. And then we look at this. Now, this is what I just showed you, and this is what the CSU model has. It has a centroid of a 30% probability of any severe weather right there in southern Iowa, with the 15% chance going from northern Minnesota, the Arrowhead region, right down to Oklahoma. So there might be some room for expansion of this if you look at that data. And if you're wondering what the 500 millibar flow looks like on Friday, this is really good looking. Now, a lot of times, like last week, we had what we thought was going to be a really good looking pattern for Friday, and it fell apart, really. So this is many days out, so it remains to be seen. But generally speaking, we do have everything in place. The trough is tilted negatively slightly. We do have evidence of short waves rotating around, so the shear will be really good overall for supercells, and the instability will be there too. So here's what it looks like, the mean cape. So a maximum bullseye right around Kansas City down to Wichita, down to northern Oklahoma. Then on Saturday, this whole thing will shift to the east. Again, this is so far out, it's kind of hard to know what kind of pinpoints we can assign to that, but likely that will occur at some point. And then finally, we take a break Sunday, not much at all. And we will take a short break before the overall pattern picks up again. Let's get to that. NIU's supercell composite percentages look really good. This basically just sums up everything I just showed you. Basically, the next few days through Friday is what this is showing, that there's a high chance of supercell development anywhere in this red corridor here. And then the week after that, we take a little bit of a break, but it comes back not early next week, but the middle and latter part of that week, we start to see supercells contributing to this quite a bit. And then finally, getting into the early days of May, we can definitely see there's a carving out here. High pressure, stable, cooler air is working its way in on average, but still pretty hot spot down there in Texas and over to the Gulf Coast regions of Louisiana. Thanks for watching today's edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. This is published every day after the morning Storm Prediction Center update. Also, remember to check that site off on day 1 because they update it fairly frequently. If you like this video, please like it. Also, you can subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.